Item number 8, ARPA funding for 911. And we also have Director Campbell with us today as well.
Make a motion for discussion for that.
Okay. Well, let's hear. I don't exactly know. Well,
I'd like to discuss.
yeah, we definitely want to discuss it.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Campbell, you address the committee and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, so I just had a question, Lynn, so remind me, how much is for the radios? So you have two requests, one line item on this sheet that we have, which is $554,000. Is that accurate? The money you
I
requested?
think that was what we last cut it down to, yes.
Okay. How much of that was for radios, do you know?
The total quote for the radio system was $274,083.29 if you want to get right down to it.
So, what I would like to do, and I'm just one member of the committee, what I'd like to do is for us to move forward with this radio system update. But before I make the motion, Lynn, tell me, so you've got it patched, or it can be patched temporarily, but it can't be patched to last forever, the way it is today.
We can temporarily fix it to carry the common audio for the digital radio system, but that's all we can do is just carry the audio part of it. There won't be any control features with the new radio system on it.
Understood. So this is required in order to finish the radio system update.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So one point I'd like to make, and I intend to support this update, okay? I got to looking back, and Jamie, you're the mayor, anybody can chime in on this. But in October of 2020, we allocated $425,000 to, as the headline in the review said, or the Times News, one of the others, said it was a solution, right, to the radio problem. I guess that's when we were going to upgrade the analog system.
Do you want me to speak on that?
Sure.
That is correct, and about 300,000 of that's been spent to this point. This is rough estimates, there to chime in if it's otherwise. There's not 425 available completely for that because of the way encumbrances work. I think there's 40,000 left. We spent 300,000. I think there's 40,000 left, if I'm not mistaken. Eric can get the exact figures on that. That was initially to build the analog radio system on the mountain. That is complete. We also put the microwave on that. It's not technically analog, but we put it on that so we could build it on grant funding. We literally, like, one day work having all of that work complete, and that's just in the microwave. The analog system is up and running. Huge improvements in the field as far as that analog coverage. Biggest problem we have now is the units being on different channels. Like Lynn will say, we can't copy, they'll switch, and you can hear them better. Go on with the next step, and I'll cover these one at a time.
Yeah, that would be good. So we've spent 300,000 of the 425 that was allocated.
Correct.
Currently. But there's not 125 left, you're saying?
About 5.
I don't have that with me today. I think we pulled
That's
that
all right.
about 40, I think.
And then in October 2021, I guess we decided that's when we were going to go digital.
Correct.
So that was, we put another 510,000
Correct.
into it at that time.
And that only bought handheld radios and radios for the car and some minor software updates for the mountaintop. And that, all the radios are now deployed and in the field. We're waiting for that one day of microwave work, and we're waiting for 2 cables for 911 for the temporary install there, and we'll be on digital.
Were we aware when we allocated the money for the new radio system that 911 was going to have a technical glitch? Did we know that?
It would, we did bring it up in meetings that they would be able to carry the common audio, but what Lynn means on full features is like picking up radio IDs, emergency IDs, stuff like that, stuff beyond.
So we did not realize that for 911 to get full functionality it was going to take more allocation of funds.
I think we brought it up a couple times in Lynn during that process.
It was brought up, but I don't think it was fully understood. That was before this current administration, so I can't say a whole lot about that.
So So,
Those requests as far as for console improvements date way back. I don't have an exact date, but it's several meetings back.
I guess my question is, and I love what Mr. Campbell does, I know y'all work hard. At what point is radios gonna be fixed and we're gonna spend money on them? Good question.
We've got some new commissioners, and that's a point of clarification. That $510,000 was governor's grant money, so it's from the state of Tennessee, that wasn't our money. And then $250,000 of that was CBD emergent grant. So just want to make sure that all the new commissioners are aware of where the respective funding sources came from that. We initially allocated $425,000 because there was a commitment from the previous commission that we were going to fix the radio one way or the other. But behind the scenes, the grant was still being pursued and it was achieved. So there was a $250,000 CBD emergent grant. And then the radios were from the governor's grant money. Recovery rebuild money was that particular grant.
I would love to start allocating money for maintenance and not install. We've been installed a long time.
which brings me to my point, Mr. Chairman, because we have, okay, so that's $935,000 that was allocated by the previous commission, right? And then we have requests to buy for $522,000, and that's to cover the fire department radios. I understand the request there, and potentially maybe have to buy some frequencies out of that money too, right? And now we have a request for $274,000 for 911. And so here we are 2.5 years later, so in October of 2020, 2.5 years later, we've spent 4 times the original amount, right? Four times as much.
You're comparing apples to oranges.
We're $100,000 under budget for the money that was approved. $125,000 under budget.
That's fine, but we're still here almost going on 3 years afterwards, soon to be $1.7 million at least allocated to it, deep, and it's still not done, right? So
Both project grants through my office is still under budget.
You have to take into consideration that a lot of that time was supply chain ordeals.
Understood.
And being able to get the labor to do it, things like that. So, yes, it took longer than we thought it would. But I can't say we're at a dead stop on spending the money, but this should be it.
And I respect that, and everybody who's been involved, I know you've worked hard at it, Jimmy, I'm not trying to call nobody out.
Yeah.
However, as we as a budget committee need to consider when anybody comes before us, whether it's the animal shelter, the sheriff, 911, EMA, whoever comes before us, we need to scrutinize every project and not just throw money at things and think that it's gonna be fixed. We have a fiduciary responsibility to this county to ensure that things that we don't run like Washington DC, where things take twice as long for twice the amount of money. Okay, and I don't think anybody sitting here wants to do that. I don't think any elected official wants to do that. But it's gonna take due diligence by all of us, and sometimes asking hard questions and getting on each other's nerves sometimes. But that's just gonna have to be the process. And so that's the point I wanted to make. And with that, I would like to make a motion to move forward with the $274,000 radio upgrade to 911.
I'd like to speak about the process just a
What
second.
money?
I would like to do that on ARPA.
So that is part of the 554 you're asking for. What's the other?
Hold on just a second. There's been a motion made. We can't discuss it unless there's a second.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Palmer, second motion. It's now open for discussion.
What's the remaining out of that? So you said 274.83 for the radios. What would the remaining funds be used for?
Backup 911 center.
Backup. So 270,
Should be 274,083 and 291,462 is the original prices put on.
but 279,917 gets your 554.
Yes.
And the 279 would be for backup radio.
Backup 911 center.
Not one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I still think there's some confusion that I'd like to speak on, if you recognize. The initial process before this committee, this new commission came into process was department heads were pulled from every agency across the county. We come together as a communication committee. We told the committee, do not focus on money, focus on fixing communications in this county. That committee came to a recommendation that was not funded. I just want that as a point of clarity when when his communication's not gonna be an issue, just as a point of clarity, the request that committee came up with was denied.
Thank you, Jim.
So will you clarify that with the amount of money that you have made the motion for, that would fund getting the,
It will be the rate to upgrade the 911 radio system.
it would not include the backup system?
Correct.
So what happens if 911 goes down and we don't have a backup system?
If someone else wants to entertain a motion for that separately, that's fine. In my motion, I'm including that. Yep.
So what happens in the event that that's not included in
Or down.
there? If I don't know, I'm under a lot of stress here lately. It seems like if I have a heart attack in my house, I call for 911 and it goes down, what happens?
Our current backup center is Granger County 911. Of course, we're authorized 4 seats, 4 dispatch seats here. Granger County has 1 seat that we can use when we have to transfer to them. You know, if it's something that we're gonna be down 10, 15 minutes, that's a common thing. That's no big deal. If we're down for an extended period of time, you know, something as simple as a lightning strike, something as simple as fire damage or water damage at our current 911 center, we only have 1 seat at Granger County 911 that we can use for backup center.
When's the last time you went down?
Down for an extended period of time was August of 2022, and we were down for, I think it was an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So Granger County, like everybody else, we're understaffed. So if we do go down for an extended period of time, we have to send a dispatcher to Granger County to man that seat.
Physically drive down there?
Physically drive down there and man it. But even when we do that, we don't have our mapping system. We don't have our CAD system. So basically, it's just somebody down there answering the phone and relaying information up there.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to upgrade the 911 system to make it fully functional with the DMR system we've installed. I guess is a good way to summarize that. Any other questions? And that amounts to
$274,083.
From ARPA funding.
From all of them.
Mr. Campbell, do you feel confident for the remaining 279,917 to get the backup center that will handle everything you need to do? Do you feel confident saying the 554,000 will do that?
We are aware that, even with the radio system, we are aware that this quote doesn't include everything that we have to do with the radio system. That's a cost share that we've said from the get-go that we're willing to share that cost. But yes, this total amount would get the radio system and a 911 backup center.
Do we know, is it backup center, is it gonna be like, do you know the location where it'll be located at?
We would prefer to do a mobile backup center. It's much cheaper to do that, and especially, we have a physical location now, which is the bottom of the library. There's no equipment there. Excuse me. It's just it's just a physical location. But we prefer to do the mobile. And that way, there's a close proximity between our current 911 center and the bottom or the basement of the library. So if there's a disaster occurring, or the power's out, or fiber's been cut, or there's a problem, if there's a problem at our current 911 center, there's probably going to be the same problem going on at the backup center if we had a physical location. So, and it's also, if you look at a physical location, you're doubling your operations budget immediately, because basically you have to mirror everything that you have at the other location. With using the mobile backup center, you could take it anywhere. If you had to, you could take it to Memphis and still answer 911 calls and dispatch for here.
You still have your maps.
You still have everything. And it's just the same as, I'm sure y'all have seen it, people's buying up land, buying a camper, throwing on the property. It's because it's just cheaper to operate. It's cheaper to maintain, having something mobile versus physical.
All right, the motion is on the floor, upgraded $274,083 from ARPA funds. Ms. Sarah, if there's no other discussion, Ms. Sarah, will you call the roll, please?
Robbie Palmer,
Yes.
Danny Elwes,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Tom Kern,
Yes.
and Josh McGill.
Yes.
Okay, while we're still on that agenda item, since we've split those two, a member of the committee could make a motion for a backup if that's what they want to do.
Mr. Chairman, that's so good.
Second.
Tom Kern has made the motion to fund the backup front for $279,917, $279,917 from ARPA funds, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Kern made the motion, I think Mr. Gibson seconded it.
Yes, sir.
That is now open for discussion.
Other than that, the hour and a half it was down in August, was it down other times last year that you recall?
Not down for extended periods of time, no.
I don't think we can't put all this money to the radio system, not have a backup. Agreed, man. We're just one natural disaster away, we're not immune to tornadoes, we're not immune to, fires. We're one natural disaster away to our communication being non-existent, so we have to fund a backup.
We're a county of a size now, and our call volume is to the point that other centers can't maintain our call volume if we have to transfer to somebody else.
What's your average call per hour?
Average call volume,
calls, yeah.
we average, it's right at 300 calls for service a day.
24-hour period.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're looking at roughly 12 calls an hour, 11 calls an hour, something like that.
Something like that.
So for an hour and a half, 20 calls might not go answered because it went down.
I don't want to explain it like that because a 911 call will never go unanswered. It will keep transferring to other 911 centers until it is answered. But if you have to transfer your lines to another center that has, no mapping for you, no information for your county, you're looking at a very extended period of time of getting an ambulance to you or getting public safety to you.
How important is response time? Director Merle, sorry. Didn't mean to call you. How important is response time in the event of cardiac arrest or something like that and 911's down?
It's very important. Brain damage or brain death occurs within 4 to 6 minutes.
So if a call goes to 911 and 911's down and it starts relaying, I mean, are we losing time?
Most definitely.
Speaking of time, I don't know how many minutes they've ever done CPR. 2 minutes is a long time. And if that 2 minutes gives another truck, gives Director Merle time to get there, you got an auto pulse system going. I don't think we can take a chance on any of our payments and wait and extend the amount of time for another county to possibly get help there.
It may not go down for an hour for the next 5 years, right?
I know.
Now, I guess the question is if it does in the next 5 years, is it worth the $279,000 we could allocate from ARPA money to secure that?
To save a life, I think it is.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To be clear, I've talked to you, Lynn, about this. We had a conversation on the phone about it. It's not that I'm necessarily against it. I think that, of all the hours in the year, and you were down an hour and a half, right? And those calls, you're not saying calls would go unanswered. Question is the amount of money you spend versus the risk you're covering. And I understand it's a gamble. So my thought process when I introduced when I made my motion was maybe to put this off a little longer because the radio was the most pressing issue. Because I don't want it to be, if we sit here and war game like what ifs, you could spend a lot of money. You could come up with a lot of scenarios and a lot of different safety nets that you could buy for $300,000. We could sit here all day and spend that kind of money. And it's a risk versus reward.
Question's been called for. Is there any?
May I speak?
I'm sorry, we called the question. I think we're going to go ahead and vote. I would love to hear from you, Mr. Kern. You called the question?
I call for question.
Okay, do you want to stand by that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very sorry. Question's been called for. Ms. Sarah Davis, will you call roll, please?
Jamie Hollis,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Robbie Palmer,
Yes.
Tom Kern,
Yes.
Joshua Gillum,
Vote on it.
Jason Roach.
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no.